Hi there. My name is Allison McGinley, and I represent AirWatch. AirWatch is the largest mobile device management platform provider in the world. And I'm going to tell you about mobile device management today, how it's changed in the last 10 years, and what kind of tools you have available if you are trying to implement either a bring your own device program in your group, or if you're simply trying to manage an influx of new devices. So, as a little overview of the agenda today, I'm going to take just a couple of minutes and tell you about mobile device management, explain some of the challenges that I see customers face every day as they're having these new devices come into their IT environments. Then we'll talk about what technology is available to help you address these challenges that are causing pain in your IT organization. And then, after a quick break, we're going to do an AirWatch mobile device management demo. This demonstration gives you an idea of what tools are available to IT administrators to manage these devices that previously were sort of in the wild, wild west. After the BlackBerry enterprise server has quit managing every device we have, we needed somewhere to go that could provide management for iPhones, Androids, and other platforms. So, to begin with, where did mobile device management come from? Well, once upon a time, about 10 years ago, we all carried BlackBerries. And we thought they were really, really cool because we could get our email on them and we could text message like a ham. But that was pretty much all they did for us. Obviously, expectations have changed, and mobile devices and the landscape have changed dramatically. And initially, we saw a big push from Apple when the iPhone came out. It was a very cool tool. However, the enterprises were not accepting it as a business tool. There were no tools to manage these devices. They couldn't track them. They couldn't put restrictions on them. There was no capabilities like we were used to having with the BlackBerry enterprise server in that environment. So in Q4 of 2010, Apple, being the innovative, brilliant company that they are, put out a new OS. And this iOS 4 had APIs built into it that allowed for enterprises to manage those devices in a similar fashion as to how we were used to managing BlackBerries within the BES. And that started the smartphone march into America. So now, instead of just having BlackBerries to deal with, the average IT organization is struggling with the challenges of users wanting to bring their Android, their iOS, their tablets, even Windows phones, Windows mobile devices. All of these devices are causing us heartache and pain. So most of the time, the initial reaction to that is, no, we're not taking these devices. You carry that BlackBerry and you like it. Unfortunately, some of our customers at AirWatch have experienced challenges around that. One of my initial customers, one of the first people that I dealt with when I came to work at AirWatch, I was giving a presentation similar to this, only on and yes, sir? Uh-oh. What can I do about that? Is it better if it gets closer? That's better? Okay, great. Thank you. One of my initial customers, when I joined AirWatch's team, had me come in and do a product demonstration for her IT group. And after the demonstration was over, the IT director ran up to me and she grabs my arm and says, I need something in place right now because we have iPhone and Android devices that are going to grow with our environment. I said, well, good, because that's what we provide. It's a platform for you to manage those, so I'm glad this was timely. It says, no, the problem is that we told the users that they couldn't use those devices. I told them they couldn't until we had something in place to manage it. It said, so I was sort of aware that those users might be leveraging Go to My PC to access their corporate PC. Equipment upgrade. Okay, so back to my customer who grabs me, drags me out of the meeting, and tells me that she must have a mobile device management platform immediately. Earlier that week, she caught her VP of HR red-handed using Go to My PC from her iPad to reference employee files on her desktop computer in the office. So everybody was experiencing some concerns around these mobile devices and the security that was not in place for them, but this was her breaking point. When there's personnel files that are being accessed and nobody's sitting behind that desk, that was when it was too far for her. We've had other customers who had different events occur that was that final straw that made them look into MDM. Lots of stories about CEOs sitting on airplanes looking at merger documents or very top secret information about the products or the services that they sell. The flight's over, everything's hustle bustle, and that iPad gets left sitting on the plane. So there's all of these concerns around these mobile devices that are being carried around that are accessing our network. So once our customers have decided that, yes, as it turns out, I guess we're going to have to come up with a plan to manage these iPhone, iPad, Android, Windows Mobile, Windows Phone, all of those devices in conjunction with our existing BlackBerry environment, then we have a real problem, because it is not a whole lot of fun for our IT groups to figure out how to implement these changes, come up with a brand new tool, learn how to scale that deployment. So maybe you're not just deploying to 30 iPhone users, now you need to deploy to 30,000 iPhone users. We need tools in place that can help as this changing mobile marketplace is occurring under our feet. So security and regulatory compliance, I sort of bundle those together. We are, of course, in the banking capital of the country, so I'm sure that we have some banking and finance connected folks out there. You have lots of regulations that you must comply with. Additionally, after we get past managing all of the compliance and security concerns around these devices, now we have to address the privacy concerns of the individual. So down here at the bottom, everybody's new favorite acronym, BYOD, bring your own device, pops up everywhere. There are concerns with every company who institutes a BYOD policy. Is it okay for me to GPS track a device that the user paid for and brought to me? Is it okay for me to pull information about their text message usage? Is it okay for me to look at their personal applications on their device? And typically speaking, legal says no. That's not something that we want to do. So in addition to needing to have something that has built-in granular privacy settings, we need something that can handle those BYOD devices as well as the corporate issued devices that we're used to managing. And if we bought it, well, we'll just GPS track that device, right? So you need something that handles both of those scenarios. Multi-platforms, covered that a few times, iOS, Android, Windows Phone, Windows Mobile, all of these. We need one tool so that you can see all of those devices from one pane of glass. And dynamic landscape. Our founder likes to say that we are in an arms race of innovation when it comes to mobile devices. There's a new Android device coming out, I think, every month right now. So we need a product that's going to stay up to the curve as this is growing and changing. So these are all the challenges that our IT administrators are struggling with, and I'm sure that you all understand. So when we're choosing a tool that's going to help us address all of those concerns, this is the full life cycle of those devices within your environment, beginning when you deploy that device and ending when the device is retired. If we begin on day one, we need something that allows us to manage all of these devices. So whether you're doing a bring your own device and we have the brand new iOS that's come out, or the greatest new Samsung Android, we need one platform that you can see all of those devices from and manage them in a similar fashion. As we deploy those devices, we need to configure those devices so that our users can use them to access our network, whether that be their email or the Wi-Fi credentials for the office, if they need access to the VPN, we need a tool that allows us to, over the air, without having to hold that device, configure the device for access to all of those resources. We also need a tool that we can build with a multi-tenant architecture that allows me to give the access that our C-level executives need to them, and that access is going to differ from what our marketing team needs, or what our sales team needs, or what our technology group needs. So we need a tool that can automate the configuration of those tools when we're enrolling a device within this MDM process. Securing the device. So many points to speak to here. That is, security is where MDM was born. This is a security tool. Whether we are choosing to secure that device by implementing compliance policies and then automating the enforcement of those compliance policies for these mobile devices, such as we insist that you have a passcode on your device. That's the absolute bare minimum. We insist upon that, and now we need a tool that will allow us to enforce that requirement. Security could also be, we already have a certificate authority system in place. We want to be able to continue to leverage that second level of authentication with our MDM solution. So we need an MDM solution that can also integrate with that certificate authority and with our LDAP or our AD, whatever our directory services is. By utilizing all of those tools, you're able to manage these devices quickly, painlessly, and in a very secure and simple fashion. Security is always simple. It has to be simple or it doesn't work. So we need something to facilitate that. Application and content management. It seems that whenever I have a new customer, we begin with mobile device management and mobile security. That's the primary endeavor. And then as the customer gets more comfortable with the tools that we have built around those two elements, then they say, you know what would be really cool is if I could also manage applications for my users utilizing the same tool. I'd like to provide internal applications that we built for these end users to use on their iPads, their Android tablets, or on their smartphones. I'd like to be able to suggest applications from the iTunes marketplace or the Android marketplace that would benefit these users. I'd like to be able to bulk purchase applications and allocate those resources out to my users. And when you grow into your MDM solution, you're going to want options around application management. Secure content management. This is sometimes sort of vertical specific, specifically when we're talking about government, we're talking about financial, we're talking about insurance. There's a lot of security-focused documentation that administrators may want to share with their users, whether it's pertinent competitive sales information for your sales staff that you don't want to be easily distributed to the rest of the world, or if it's top secret development information for the newest and greatest projects that you're working on. You want an option to securely share content, whether that's photos, JPEGs, videos, or the suite of Microsoft Office products. You want an option to share that kind of information with these mobile users as well. Monitor and manage. We need a tool that allows the IT administrator to manage, is this device roaming? If a device goes roaming, we need to automate the process of eliminating its capability to roam. We need to stop the bleeding on that before it costs me too much. We need to be able to manage usage of text messaging or data plans or voice plans. We need to have visibility perhaps into where these devices are. Maybe we want to be able to GPS track the devices that we've provided for the users, but we need something that differentiates between those users and the BYOD users we don't want to GPS track. Lots of tools built in to monitor and manage. From a support standpoint, these users, the tablets and the smartphones are trying hard to take over for laptops. So we're going to need to address that need for support from our help desk, one. And two, how do we put some of the power back into the hands of the users so they can do simple things like clear their own passcode or GPS track their own device when they lost it in their house? How do we allow them to do that so that my Tier 1 support is not spending 90% of their time doing these types of activities? Finally, when we want to retire this phone, whether in a corporate issued environment, perhaps you are retiring it and you want to wipe it, and you want to stick it in the drawer of shame that lives in the back of IT. Whether you want to do that and do a full device wipe, returning that device to its factory settings, or if you have a bring your own device initiative and that user is now leaving your company, you don't want to completely wipe all of their personal information from their device, but you need a way to safely and securely wipe all of that corporate issued and corporate provided information that was in the MDM. We have the ability to do selective wipes as well, so you can leave all of their pictures and their contact information and their personal email intact, and then feel secure that you've taken all of your corporate information off. So this is what MDM is. This is what we're trying to accomplish. This is what all of our users are going for when we initially talk to them. They want to be able to manage these devices until the device has left the building. After a quick break, and this was kind of the shorter version, portion of the presentation, after we do a quick break, I'm going to come back and do a product demonstration for you. What we're going to start with is we'll do a live online enrollment of an iPad. So you get to see the experience from the end user's perspective. We log on, we go to our web-based enrollment portal, put in our credentials, and over the air, all of the resources that we need to be successful are going to be pushed down over the air to the device. So we get to see that experience, we get to look at the resources that you can share, we get to see the configurations that can be made. Then we'll switch gears a little bit. We'll check out the online management console. This is the console that your administrator can use to perform all of the day-to-day management, to set up their infrastructure, to put in place compliance policies, and then automate the enforcement of those compliance policies. And then finally, we'll go check out our self-service portal. That is the self-service portal that's going to take some of the burden off of your IT help desk and be able to put some of that burden back on your end users. And we'll finish doing that selective enterprise wipe. So that was MDM. Does anybody have any questions before we take a quick break to have snacks and make phone calls and all of that? All right, so what you're looking at currently is a web camera which is pointed at my iPad. So this is a very representative device, as if it came out of the box or if it was part of a personally owned device that might be part of a bring your own device type of deployment. A couple of things to point out here. We have pretty standard access to applications and resources like you would in a personally owned device. FaceTime, the camera, and YouTube are here. I'm going to point those out because we're going to restrict access to those resources when we push down the MDM profile. If we open up our mailbox, we do have this mailbox configured with access to a Gmail account. So that's my personal-ish box. We also have it configured with a personal calendar. Very standard stuff, pay the power bill, give the dog its flea pill, all of the standard, really important personal items. And I have one contact here, so that's Mom. If we scroll over to this next page, before today I did do a little bit of homework, and I went to the iTunes marketplace, and I downloaded the zero-cost AirWatch client. This client is going to allow you to enroll devices into your AirWatch MDM. For iOS devices, you do have the opportunity to enroll without this agent, just through a web-based enrollment portal. However, if you choose to use this agent, you also will have the ability to GPS track the device, get systems information on the device itself, as well as detect for rooted or jailbroken devices. With Android or other platforms, you do have to have this client on the device. We're going to enroll. We click on the agent, enroll device, redirected to that web-based enrollment page. This first piece of information that we're asked for is our group ID. This group ID is going to automate enrollment into our corporate hierarchy. So today I'm going to enroll into the executive group within our demo environment. So these groups, we do have in-depth integration now with LDAP or AD, so you could map over user groups from that environment into your AirWatch environment, and we call those location groups. Enrolling into executive group. The next piece of information I'm asked for is a username and password. This could be a simple set of credentials, which is what we're going to do today, or this could also map back as well to LDAP, and these could be the Active Directory or LDAP credentials that your user uses to sign on to the network. And once we have authenticated now, we'll push go. The next page that we're taken to is the end user license agreement. This is provided as a template. It is entirely customizable. Some of our users are calling it their mobility policy. The mobility policy, you could customize one for your corporate issued users, corporate issued device users, and have a separate one for your bring your own device type users. So this is where you're going to tell them, are you going to GPS track their device? Are you going to capture call log information? Whatever you would like to commit to your end users, this would be the right document in which to put that. We're going to accept the end user license agreement, and we are now prompted to install the MDM profile. We click install. There we go. Install now. And we are doing this over 3G, so bear with me. We're going to install the profile, and we are done. So that is all that was required of our end user in order to enroll in AirWatch MDM. Now you see some of these resources already being pushed down to the device. This first icon is a link back to an application catalog. Specifically utilizing AirWatch's technology, you're able to share 3 types of applications with your users. Those could be internal applications you developed for your use specifically. They could be public applications from the marketplace, or they could be bulk purchased applications which you'd like to allocate out to your users utilizing this AirWatch tool. We also push down a web clip to a My Device portal. That's that self-service portal I've spoken to a couple of times now. This is going to give that user one-click access to be able to say, do some basic level support for their own device. We've also pushed down here a link back to SharePoint. This device has been configured with access to the VPN, so we now have that secure one-click access back to the SharePoint drive. Yes, sir. But you have 2 options with this product offering. We have a hosted solution which 70% of our users are utilizing, so you could put your device services out in the cloud. You could also deploy this particular option of MDM within your own network if you chose. Many are putting it in their DMZ. If you go with the cloud-based deployment, you can utilize our enterprise integration system in order to securely integrate that cloud system with your internal resources. Does that answer all the questions? Okay. All right, so you see here that now we're also having applications being pushed down to the device. So as we click install, we're going to see those applications being installed down onto our device. And that's our final one. Pushing down. This is our secure browser function. Some organizations are choosing to limit which websites they want their users to be able to visit utilizing these devices. So utilizing this secure browser technology, you could limit access to Safari or eliminate that access to Safari, forcing your users to use this browser. You could blacklist sites through that browser which are not appropriate for your users to visit, or you could utilize the whitelisting technology, whitelist 5, 15, 25 sites, and break this device down and make it into more of a kiosk mode. One other resource which we're pushing down, we're going to open up this application catalog that we spoke to just a moment ago and check out one of our internal applications, the Secure Content Locker. The Secure Content Locker is that secure content management tool. This tool was originally developed for United Airlines. The original use case, there we go. The original use case for this tool was that United Airlines, their pilots were required to carry flight manuals onto every flight that they piloted. And this was a challenge for the pilots themselves. It was 2 bags weighing 40 pounds each. They had to drag them through every airport, had to keep up with them constantly. Additionally, from a management standpoint, it was quite miserable. The books themselves had to be updated for every pilot every 2 to 4 weeks, and it was incredibly expensive. So if United Airlines can come up with a way to share this information with their pilots paperlessly, then they were going to save hundreds of millions of dollars a year. So through a joint venture with Airwatch, we developed this secure content locker for use for United Airlines. Now, because we have already developed the tool, now all of our users have access to the secure content locker function. 3G is running a little bit slow, so it'll probably take a while for the content locker to really fully install. So I'm going to speak to what it is, and then we can check it out later kind of offline if anybody would like to see it. This content locker is a secure application. The user has to authenticate with their credentials in order to log into the content locker. Now, once they're in the content locker, their administrators have provided content which they want to share only within this application. So that content cannot be downloaded locally to the device. So your end users, perhaps your sales staff, couldn't be forwarding on documents that you've decided are really not appropriate for external use. Additionally, the administrator can set expiration dates for these documents. Supported file types, the full suite of Microsoft Office products, JPEGs, PDFs, as well as now video is supported through the Secure Content Locker. Yes, sir. It would be, however, when we get into the restrictions portion of the mobile device management portal, you can restrict the camera function, which will restrict the ability to take screenshots as well. All right, the last thing that's been pushed down here is a passcode requirement. This passcode requirement we're going to use today is very simple. We're just going to use 4 ones to simplify this for demo's sake. However, as the administrator, you could specify that device must have up to a 16-digit alphanumeric passcode. We'd have some very upset users probably, but that's your prerogative. As we slide back to this first page, you see here that we have, in fact, restricted access to the camera, YouTube, and FaceTime. Most of the resources which are innately available on the device can be restricted, especially on the iOS platform. Android is sort of catching up in that respect. And we'll go over some of that in a little more detail when we get into the online management console. Now, if we open up our mail client, we previously had this Google Mailbox. Now, we click back and we have automatically configured for access to the Exchange as well. If we open up our calendar, we're going to see that populate with our Exchange calendar as well, utilizing that native client on the device. And when we open up our contacts, we now see that in addition to Mom's contact, we also have a group of Exchange contacts that the device was configured for access to, right there over the air. So we believe that is a very end-user friendly enrollment process. Even your less technologically savvy users can pull this off. Now we're going to change gears a little bit and go check out the management console. This is the online portal which you would log into in order to do your day-to-day management activities. So let's take a look first off at the location group tree up here. Again, this is your multi-tenant corporate hierarchy. So you will set up these location groups to automate resources for each of the groups of users within your environment. Sometimes this might be divided up based on geography, sometimes on job responsibility. It all depends on what's appropriate in your group. Now that we have that integration with your directory services, again, linking this back directly to the user groups which you choose out of that environment, has been incredibly helpful for users who are building out their location group tree now. This first page we're looking at, this is a basic overview. These are dashboards. The first dashboard gives a little bit of visibility into asset tracking. We see here that we have a visual depiction of device ownership within this particular environment. If we want to drill that down, we can hover over the corporate dedicated devices and see that that 22% actually breaks down into 84 corporate dedicated devices. If I click on the 84, down here at the bottom, it'll pull up only the devices which are deemed corporate dedicated, so you can do management based on those alone. There you're able to manage by exception utilizing these dashboards. We also have some dashboards into device compliance. In just a moment, I'll show you our compliance engine, where you can set compliance rules and then automate a process of escalation when those rules are not adhered to by your users. The Secure Email Gateway is an additional tool to give you management capabilities around your email environment. Some of our original MDM customers noticed that when they put this MDM tool in place, some of their more technologically savvy users already knew the URL location for their exchange, and so they would just go behind the MDM, unenroll their device, and still be able to gain access to that email. We put the Secure Email Gateway option in place. It acts as a traffic cop, protecting that exchange or that email environment from anybody who is not MDM managed. So utilizing this feature, you could set that any device that accesses the exchange must be MDM managed, preventing your users from, logging in with their kid's iPad when they get home in the afternoon, or performing any other of these security concerns that we know happen. Telecom and roaming, we do have the ability to track data usage, voice usage, as well as detect for roaming status on devices. Utilizing the compliance engine, once a device has checked in and it's detected that it's roaming, we can disable the roaming automatically on that device. So this kind of stops the bleeding if you have travelers who leave the country regularly. Down here at the bottom, we're going to refresh this page, and the devices that are going to pull up at the bottom of this original screen are devices which have checked in most recently. So as we scroll down, looks like a lot of people are checking in. I was looking for the device that we just enrolled. There it is, Allison M's iPad. If we click on what we call the friendly name of that device, it's going to pull up some device level information on the device. Now, all of this information hasn't completely updated yet. When the administrator sets up AirWatch, that administrator dictates how often each device automatically checks in with AirWatch and updates the information available for the device. Some environments that happens every 15 minutes, some environments it happens twice a week. It just depends on what's appropriate for that environment. So here we see the most up-to-date information we have on the device. Is it complying with our security policies? The passcode that we know has been enacted is not showing up as active. We could query the device and get some updated information on that. It's going to take a couple of minutes since we're on 3G. But if we wanted to get updated information on this device, we could send a device query command out to the device, and it would return off of scheduled check-in. If we wanted to clear the passcode on the device, we could provide that function here. We could send 3 types of messages to this device, either an SMS text, an email, or a push notification. We could do a remote lock on the device. The 2 types of device wipes that we keep talking about, that enterprise selective wipe, or the full-on device wipe, returning that device to its factory settings. We also have this find device command. I like to call that the messy office phone locator. It will override the mute function, which is on the device, and will emit an audible tune, so you can locate that in the trunk of your car, or down the hall in your boss's office, wherever it was that you left the device. We also have some visibility here into which profiles are being pushed down to the device. Profiles are our main source of management for these mobile devices. We see here that lots of profiles were pushed down when we just enrolled that device. Yes, sir, in the back. The device. So when your user enrolls, you are allowing that user to, as an administrator, you give them access to enroll these devices within MDM. Some administrators will say you can only enroll one device in our MDM. So once that user's set of credentials have been used to enroll their device, those credentials are no longer authorized to enroll any other devices. Well, we have the ability to detect for rooted or jailbroken status. I'm not really sure how the SIM card plays into that, to be fair. I would love to have an engineer here with me to answer any technical questions I don't know the answers to, but he did not get in the car this morning. So if there are any questions which I can't answer today, I have lots of contact information up here, and I promise I will get back to you by Tuesday afternoon with answers to any of your questions, because that's when I will be able to have gotten back in the office. This is on a device level that it's gathering this information, though, if that is of any answer to your question. Looking back here, we have the concept of optional versus automatic profiles. An automatic profile, as the name would indicate, is pushed down automatically when that primary MDM profile is pushed. An optional profile might be made available to the device, but the user would have to accept that profile in order to push it down. Now, this might be appropriate if you have a user who travels frequently. They don't need, for instance, Wi-Fi settings to the Atlanta office all the time. However, they're traveling to Atlanta today, and as an administrator, you'd like to be able to push down that profile to the device so that when they walk in the door, they'll automatically connect to Wi-Fi without having to share that passcode with them and everyone else in the world. Additionally, the administrator could also remove the profile from the screen as well. Applications. Here we have full visibility into which applications are present on this device. From a privacy setting, there is no privacy settings here at all. So our administrator has full visibility into this device and which apps are on that device. You can tell which applications are being managed because they have this little gear next to them. That gear gives the administrator the option to install or remove those applications because they're managing them. Personal applications, the administrator cannot push down to the device or remove. That's a limitation of the iOS software specifically. However, as an administrator, you could set compliance requirements that say, for instance, Facebook is a blacklisted application. If Facebook's a blacklisted application, then airwatch will automatically escalate the complaint when it recognizes that a blacklisted application is present on my device. Then it will automatically take action and escalate a series of events to try to persuade my behavior otherwise. So in just a moment, we'll show you that compliance engine and show you how you can mold your user's behavior that way. Content. This is content being managed through that secure content locker we mentioned before. This is your visibility into what content you as the administrator have made available to your user. Again, we do have integration with certificate authority capabilities. So here we can see which certificates have been assigned to this device. A little bit of information on our user here. If we'd like to email her to let her know that she's not compliant or that we need her to come visit. Today we have the GPS tracking capability turned on for this demo example. So we can drill down into this map and GPS track this device. Hover over it, pull up the location. We could turn that capability off if it was not appropriate for our environment as well. We also are capturing an event log. That event log is capturing all the traffic which travels between this device and AirWatch. So that is sort of device level management. If we want to get into how we're building policies within AirWatch, first let's talk about profiles. Profiles, again, are that primary tool that you can use to manage these devices. If we want to create a profile, we simply go to the Profile Wizard, click Add. First, we have to select the platform. You see here that there is a clear distinction between the capabilities you have on each platform. These capabilities are highly dictated by the APIs, which are made available by these manufacturers. Obviously, Apple and Android have the most management capabilities. with BlackBerry, Symbian, and Windows Mobile coming in far, far behind. So we click on Apple. First we're going to do some general naming of this profile. So we're going to give it a name. We can specify minimum operating system requirements for each profile. We can specify whether this is a corporate dedicated or an employee-owned device profile specifically. We can dictate whether the users could remove or not remove the profile once it's been established. And then down here at the bottom we have a bit of location logic. So we can assign this profile to specific location groups only. Once we've named the profile, we're going to begin to configure it. We're going to run through some of these configurations fairly quickly, touch on kind of the high points. If we wanted to configure a passcode policy for this device, we simply check the passcode box, and then we pull up all of these specifications around that passcode policy. Are we okay with a simple value, or do we want to require an alphanumeric? We can specify a minimum passcode length, a maximum passcode age. We can specify a maximum number of failed attempts until we totally nuke their device. It's very, very customizable. You could also turn that nuking feature off, FYI. If we want to create restrictions on the device, this is how we're going to restrict access to things such as the camera or Siri, for instance. There are many security challenges around Siri. Many customers are choosing to limit access to Siri because of these. So this is where you would complete that task. Limiting access to the camera, FaceTime, voice dialing. Scroll down a bit. Limiting access to YouTube, allowing or not allowing pop-up blocker, allowing or not allowing backup to iCloud. And then down here at the bottom we have some interesting information around ratings for movies and television and things like that. This is really useful for our educational customers. They're the primary users of that function. If we want to start configuring the device for access to those resources that we mentioned before, we could begin by configuring it for access to Wi-Fi. We simply put in our Wi-Fi settings, go ahead and upload that password so we no longer have to share it with all of our users. And when this profile is pushed down to that device, they'll have immediate access to that Wi-Fi network. Additionally, you could configure the device for access to your VPN. These are specifically the VPNs which we support. Yes. Yes. I have just received information about our FIPS 140 compliancy, and I would hate to give you that information. I do not work with federal customers, so it's not in my repertoire of intel. However, we can get that for you after today. RSA? I don't know. I imagine not, since I don't know what that means. Sorry. Again, I will be happy to get any answers for you that I do not have after today. I can promise that I'll get back to you with any of those answers. Configuring access to email, pushing down access to those web clips. Again, we do have the ability to designate an icon, point that icon back to a URL. Then that user has one-click access to the URL. A standard use case for this might be access to your help desk. So your help desk ticket portal, we can point an icon back to that URL, and your users have one-click access to that. Moving on, let's talk about compliance, and again how we're going to be molding that behavior utilizing this compliance engine. We have 3 types of compliance policies that you would want to set. Device compliance policies, this is a good example, is a passcode requirement on the device. Email policies, so these are requirements such as your device must be an MDM managed device in order to access our email environment, or your device cannot be rooted or jailbroken and continue to receive access to our email environment. As well as application policies, this is where you could blacklist applications and then take action against offenders. If we want to create a policy, we can simply click Add. First we select the compromise status. We're going to utilize the passcode example. Very simple here. First, we select passcode as our compliance status. If a passcode is not present, we want AirWatch to automatically take action against this offender. We click Next. Now the actions. This is where we're going to build an escalating process of events which occur once that passcode is recognized as not being enforced. Perhaps the first thing that we'd like to do is notify this user that they are not compliant with our requirements. We can send an email, an SMS, or that push notification. If we want to send emails, we can build templates through the AirWatch console. You can utilize lookup values, call the user by name. Hello, Mr. User. We do have a passcode requirement policy. Please update your device to reflect this passcode within 1 hour, or we'll be forced to limit your access to corporate resources. So now we add an escalation. So in the event that our user does not comply with our request within 1 hour of receiving that notification, now we can begin to remove access to corporate resources. Typically speaking, email is considered the crown jewel of all corporate resources. Since 10 years ago when we were all carrying around Blackberries, we were pretty used to having access to that email. So when you cut off access to email, people tend to comply with your requests. So if we want to remove that profile type, we simply would remove access to the Exchange or email environment. Now that user no longer has access to their email, and they'll probably go ahead and put the passcode on the device. This could also be escalated all the way to the point where you enact an enterprise wipe on the device. So that theory being fine, don't put your passcode on the device, but you don't get to access our corporate network if you don't. So this is very customizable, and this is how you keep from having to be the hall monitor of all of the compliance policies within your mobile environment. Looking back here, application management we touched on earlier. That's the ability to manage those 3 different types of applications. As we pull this up, you see that as the administrator, you get to specify which applications you want to manage. So whether those are those internal apps or applications that we're pulling in from the iTunes or the Android marketplace, you can manage those here. If you purchased 400 licenses for Video Time Machine, and you'd like to allocate those resources out to the users who need them, you could do that from this screen pretty simply. Speaking once again to privacy settings, this is very important when you have those bring your own devices within your network. If we want to go into privacy settings on a device level, general, and privacy, we see here that there's a variety of information which we can either collect and display, collect and not display, or not collect and not display at all. That can be divided up based on ownership of the device. So we may want to GPS track corporate issued devices, but not GPS track employee owned devices. We may not want to collect user information for these employee owned devices, specifically not telecom information for those devices. There's all kinds of challenges around collecting application information for your users if that device is personally owned by the user. Visibility into their personal apps gives a lot of visibility into one's life. They may have applications which pertain to health conditions or financial situations, all sorts of information you don't really want to have as an IT administrator. So we give you the ability to have very granular visibility into that user's personal life or not. So we're kind of wrapping up here. We're going to go check out the reporting capabilities. We have over 100 pre-canned reports. These reports are all available either on demand or you can set up subscriptions. So whether you want to set up a subscription for yourself once a week, if you want to set up a subscription that's emailed out to someone else within your company, even if they don't have a login or password for the AirWatch console, you can go ahead and set that subscription here. We'll check out the self-service portal very quickly and then wrap up today's demo. So here, as a user again, I'm going to log into the self-service portal. I'm asked to identify myself with a group ID, my username, and my passcode. This is also another good time to bring up our multilingual support here. These are the languages which are supported by AirWatch. If I want to log in and view that console, you see here that I have 2 devices as a user registered within this MDM environment. So first I need to select which device it is that I would like to do self-support for. I click on my iPad, pull up information there. They should all look pretty similar. It looks a lot like the device level support screen from the management console. This is the full set of capabilities which you could give to your end users. You could also limit this. So if we don't feel like our users should have the ability to do device wipes, we could take that access away. We could also take away the access to GPS track or to have full visibility into which profiles have been pushed. One new screen is the support tab. So you could populate the support tab with the help desk contact information. Right next to that is all of the information about that user's device. So in the event that they cannot solve their own problem here by, say, clearing their own passcode, they could also call into the help desk and get support and have all the information that they need to be successful there. So from this screen is where I typically will do the enterprise wipe function, unless anybody has questions about the self-service portal. Alright. Now this is usually kind of exciting because this enterprise wipe happens pretty quickly. So it's sort of entertaining to see if I can get back to the device in time when I'm doing this from one screen. So we select enterprise wipe. We say OK. And as we go back up here, you see that all of those resources are being pulled off of the device in real time. This is a ghost icon. This is a bug in the iOS software. Hopefully Apple will fix it in their next release, but we'll see. That can be removed just like any other application, and it no longer takes you anywhere. It just goes to a white screen. If we go back to this main page, we see we once again have access to FaceTime, the camera, and YouTube. So those restrictions have been lifted. When we open up our mail client, it shrinks back up to only having access again. Only having access again to that Google account because the Exchange account's been removed. We see that Exchange calendar information being taken away. And now back to Mom being my only contact. So that is a very brief overview of the power of mobile device management tools are offering today. Clearly I do not have all the answers. We established that earlier. But does anybody have any function questions that you'd like to ask me, or any questions you could ask about my company? I would be an expert in that as well. Yes. We offer a hosted solution as well as an on-premise solution. We've been recognized for both solutions, actually. In the kind of small to medium-sized business space, about 70% of our customers are opting for that hosted solution, especially now that we have the ability to do that secure integration using our enterprise integration tool. Larger deployments, so if we look at customers like Coca-Cola has deployed 110,000 devices this year and is managing those through AirWatch. They put that on premise. So it sort of depends on whatever's appropriate for your environment, but both are very solid offerings. Yes? Based on device. So licensing is per device. My company specifically offers a subscription license, cost per device per month, and we also offer a perpetual license. I do know that we have partnerships with companies who are using it as a provided service. I'm not sure about full white labeling or if it says somewhere that it's been powered by AirWatch, but we can find out for you. Anyone else? I hope this has been helpful. Yes? In the secure content locker, or We can require basic levels of encryption. That usually starts with device level encryption, having the passcode enacted on the device. If we're talking about, for instance, email, then iOS encrypts that once you have that passcode enabled. For the Android devices, we're utilizing a touchdown client. For anything other than the Samsung Safe devices to encrypt email. That is not a full answer to your question. I'm gauging by the look on your face. We would suggest that you put it into the secure content locker. What you're talking about is typically called containerization. There is another product that's available in the market. It's provided by Good Technologies, where they are taking all of the corporate email, corporate calendar, corporate contacts. They're putting them into their own application on the device, and so you cannot get that document back out of their application. There's always positives and minuses around that. You lose the native experience of having the native client on the device. However, you do limit the ability for your users to then, say, copy and paste that and put it somewhere else. From AirWatch's perspective, we do limit the user from opening something in their, say, Exchange box and then mailing it out from their personal box. So you would then have, the Exchange active sync coverage of what was then mailed out from that Exchange box. We are not an anti-malware company, so we offer a best-in-breed solution for mobile device management in general. I'm not aware of a way that you could. Well, we could, again, address that further with an engineer that might have more information on that. However, I'm not aware of how the two softwares would play together. I think you would have a best-in-breed of virus protection and a best-in-breed of MDM if you were trying to deploy both. Is that it? Does anybody have any experience with AirWatch or any of the other MDM providers? Nope. It's brand new. I love it when something's brand new. Yes? Yes. I am. Faria, there's a bunch of providers of the solutions. I don't compete frequently with that particular product. When you look at how certain products are scored by, say, Gartner or Forrester or Infotech, there's really kind of a short list of products that are considered sort of best in breed. And so we compete more often with Mobile Iron and Good Technology and other larger players like that. However, I am familiar with their solution, yes. Anything else? I really appreciate everybody's attention today. This is a much larger group than I normally speak to, so I hope I did a good job.